Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panelists and participants, welcome to this riveting roundtable on HR trends for 2024. Today, our discussion is going to revolve around four pivotal pillars. The topic of this virtual roundtable goes by HR Tech Trends 2024, Pioneering Innovation in the HR Landscape. So talking about the four pivotal pillars, we are going to look at resolving the productivity paradox. We are going to look at change management. We are also going to look at how do we break the silos with tech solutions. And lastly, we are going to take up how do we accomplish and cross the bridge from talent acquisition to talent access. So let me allow me to give you a quick synopsis of what this roundtable is all about, right? So as we adopt to the changing HR scene, we focus on finding the right mix of technology and the human touch, embracing flexible change, encouraging teamwork, and updating how we bring in new talent. So let's now dig into these important trends. I have with me four senior distinguished HR leaders with a collective experience of 90 years plus, right? So that just goes to show the amount of experience you're going to witness in the next hour or so. And allow me to introduce you to this star-studded panel. Unfortunately, one of our panelists, Mr. Richie Joseph, could not make it to the discussion due to some unforeseen circumstances. But let's get going with the introductions. So I'll start off with Mr. Anuj Nath Galgotia. With over 25 years experience in corporate HR leadership across diverse sectors in companies like Hudco, Reliance, and L&T. Anuj Nath is currently the CHRO at Signature Global, an MBA and accredited trainer from IHS Rotterdam. He excels in HR strategy, organizational structuring, talent acquisition, and performance management. He has represented India in the UN Roundtable for HR for Urban Management at Rotterdam and is a founding member of the IHS Alumni Association of India. Specializing in EPC, construction, real estate, BFSI, pharma, and retail as industry verticals, his expertise extends to performance and compensation management. Welcome, Mr. Anuj Nath Galgotia. Next, I would want to welcome Mr. Debraj Roy. With over 16 years of experience in HR across healthcare and consumer goods industries with brands like Dabur, Glenmark, Abbott, Sony, and Indorama, Mr. Roy specializes in strategic, tactical, and operational HR. He has played several roles in business HR, talent acquisition, change management, organizational development, and employee engagement interventions. His expertise includes M&A, business integration, statutory compliance, HR audits, organizational diagnosis, and other operational HR functions such as PMS, F&M, welfare activities, employee development, and grievance handling. Debraj is a compensation specialist with proficiency in HRIS, talent management system, and learning management system. Welcome, Mr. Roy. Next, I would want to welcome Ms. Smita Venkataraman. Smita is a former VP of HR and Corporate Communications. She is now the founder and chief advisor of Smita Venkataraman HR Advisory Services. With over 23 years of global experience at companies like AGS Health, McKinsey, and Tesco, she has received numerous national and global awards, including being recognized in India's 40 under 40 for HR leadership, an alumna of IIM Bangalore and Columbia Business School. She serves as a strategic consultant in HR advisors HR advisor to founders, CEOs, and boards of leading social sector organizations in India. Smita has also served as a jury member for India's 30 under 30 and participated in the inaugural Women on Boards program by the US Consulate General, Mumbai, Aspire for Her and our foundation. Welcome to the panel, Smita. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Ritika Puri. Ritika is a seasoned HR leader with 15 plus years of expertise in corporate HR, business partnering, talent management, organizational development, and more. Currently, she serves as the HR head at Exam Factor, an ABP Group company with a distinguished career in leadership roles at Sunstone, Delivery, Oyo, and others. Her versatile experience spans across retail, telecom, manufacturing, hospitality, and logistics. Ms. Puri is an alumni of Symbiosis Center for Management and Human Resources Development, demonstrating a proven record of driving HR initiatives for organizational success. Okay, so now that I've introduced all the distinguished panelists, let's get started. Just a quick check. We will take questions from all the listeners at the end for our panelists. Starting point today is going to be productivity paradox. Anuj, I'm going to come to you first and seek your thoughts. So shall we start?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you
Uh,
now.
Pulkit, I am encountering a lot of connectivity issues, so please don't mind it if I go out of the meeting and then again jump in. So please continue with the proceedings. I have missed out already some of the introductions, but I think right now we are connected, so you might as well, please take me to speed where the proceedings are right now.
Yeah, so we've just started, sir. I just introduced all the panelists, and I've given a sense of what this panel discussion is all about, right? And I've also shared the details of what to expect in terms of Q&A with the audience. So that's where we are right now. You haven't missed anything. We are in fact going to start with the first pillar, which is around resolving the productivity paradox. So I was about to ask you the very first question.
Please go
So
ahead.
shall
So
okay,
please go ahead.
awesome, awesome.
If there is a break, then please pardon me for that. I'll jump in maybe sometime later during the program. So not an issue, but please go ahead with the question right now. We are connected, so some
Thank
of
you,
the happy
thank you,
moments I
thank
have.
you,
So
thank
please
you.
go ahead.
So let's
Yeah.
thank you, sir. So as we approach 2024, how can organizations strike a balance between adopting automation and maintaining a human-centric approach to productivity in their workforce? Would love to know your thoughts, please.
Well, yes, it's a very profound. Number one, I should compliment you for putting together very, very interesting and very deep questions, and which embrace the entire gamut of HR. And right now, we are in the middle of a technology revolution which is going on. And when I look at the HR landscape, there's so many things happening, and certain words have become mainstream. Like I was thinking about it in the morning only that we start talking about HR tech. So the first question which occurs to me in response to your question is, what is HR tech? Is HR, are we describing HR as a technology? Or are we talking about technology which is supposed to be supporting the
We lost your voice.
on very wrong foundations?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you talk about technology, it is supposed to be supporting the overall HR function. It is not about putting human into the technology. It is all about supporting that human, which interfaces with my people, and supporting them with technology so that I am there available for everybody in and give an excellent response. The whole thing is about enabling. So the idea is, when you talk about automation, when you talk about HR tech, the idea is how to create efficiency and how to deliver that efficiency and a very qualitative response to the stakeholders out there. And we in HR, we have multiple stakeholders. But then also we have the stakeholder, which is supposed to be a very important, who pays my salary and the other's salary. That is the management as a stakeholder. And when you're talking
Hmm.
about enabling technology, and the kind of so much the sentiment about it is there, which means that we have raised the bar, we have raised the expectations of the management from us, when I say us, I mean HR, and the expectation of the employee from HR and their companies. Now, these expectations have been raised to the highest level. Now, my employee is on a daily basis interacting on the electronic platform with Zomato, with so many platforms. I'm interacting with them, but then when it comes to my own responses, my own systems, we may not.
I think we have some tech issues at Anuj's end. Sir, we are not able to hear you. We'll wait for a couple of seconds. Otherwise, we'll jump on to the next question that I had for Ritika. Okay, okay. Ritika,
Yeah, there was
so
a break, I think.
Yeah, yeah. You may
Yeah.
want to turn off your video stream, sir. That might save some bandwidth. We should be able to hear you okay then. We lost you
Yeah,
for a
no
while,
worries.
but
I'll be rejigging something. So please continue with the conversation. I will bring come up whenever my internet has stabilized. I've called the IT people. So that's what is
okay.
the fallacy of IT, that start seeing failures here and then when, when you start depending too much on it. So, anyways, that's what I wanted to say as an opening, that HR technology is an enabler, and it's a great enabler, I should say. The onus is on us to use it
Yeah,
and
yeah.
better it and use it to deliver efficiency to the our customers at large. And when I say customers, I mean the candidates, I mean the employees, I mean the
Okay, Ritika, I want to come to you
building.
now next.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So
Please go ahead.
thanks for those thoughts, Anuj. That certainly helps us set the context for what follows next. Next, I had this question for Ritika. So talking about employee engagement and motivation, Ritika, what's your take on how has HR technology specifically contributed to creating a more personalized and impactful employee experience in your organization?
So thanks, Pulkit, for bringing this up. And it's one of the most interesting angles actually. While taking from what Anuj said, definitely, I mean, tech in the ideal world, and so much is being talked about, should be considered as an enabler. Why? Because it makes our life easier in many ways. I mean, at least that's what I think.
Yeah.
Uh, when we talk about HR tech, let's say, how does it help in increasing employee experience, the engagement and the motivation? And multiple thoughts come to my mind, honestly. And very quickly, I mean, to start with, as basic as, it helps us with the right set of tools and the platform. I mean, it enables good collaboration through, various communication platforms that you can think of. Uh,
Hmm.
you can think of rewards and recognition through HR tech, which could be more structured, more fun, with the especially the Gen X and the Gen Z. And of course, I have good startup experience, so people tend to react more with these new tools. And so you can use it for good recognition programs. Not just that, I mean, other than that, I mean, talking about learning and development initiatives through, let's say, HR tech. I mean, how it becomes easier to build designs and programs which can actually help, with a good skill gap and assessment. And again, I'm saying these are more platforms. I do not choose to say that your human intervention or our business partners, are not involved. That thoroughly are the people through and through who drive all of these, conducting appraisals, having great fancy benefits and perks. I mean, some of these things are definitely what the new generation is looking for. Like just Anuj said, we all would agree that we've moved to the Blinkits of the world, Zomatos of the world.
Yeah.
Um, so why not in your day-to-day routine? And you make best use of technology in different areas of HR, and the complete employee life cycle that you can use. I can go on and on. I mean, I can talk about
Yeah.
flexi benefits. I can talk about good comp programs. You can pick and choose what you want to get offered, right? I mean, that's where at least I feel people are moving towards, as an engagement with the organization. And not just that, I mean, the years of engagement is also a question, right, with different
Yeah.
companies these days. uh, but
Yeah.
what also extremely important is, I think the criticality of effectiveness of these tools also depend on how they're implemented, how they are imbibed in the organization's overall strategy and culture. I mean, you need to have that drive and adrenaline to use them in the right way. I mean, they have to be implemented in the right way and used in the right way to actually get the most benefit out of it. I mean, if that
Hmm.
answers it all, I mean, multiple other ways, and I can keep going on if I have all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. 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 No, thanks, Ritika. You've given us valuable insights into the current impact of HR tech on employee engagement. So let's build on that, and let's now shift our focus to the future. And Smita, I'm going to come to you. So in the coming years, how can HR tech play a crucial role in not only identifying but also nurturing high potential talent, or high pots as they call it, to drive long-term productivity gains?
Great question, Pulkit. So there are essentially three facets to this, right? There is an identification phase using HR technology, and then there is the nurturing and coaching bit. And then underlying all of this is also what's in it for me for the high pot, which links it to rewards and recognition. Now, if we look at the first facet of it, which is the identification process, oftentimes high performers are erroneously, synonymously, tagged along with high potentials. And potential and performance are two different things in my experience, for the simple fact that performance is what has already happened, demonstrated expertise in an area against agreed goals within agreed timelines. But potential is what the person can actually bring to the future, whether the person is ready for the next level in terms of enhanced competencies, in the ability to contribute at a much higher level in terms of value creation, etc. So, unlike performance appraisal, which can happen at a period of time, and there's the performance appraisal process, and everything gets documented, potential has to be assessed throughout the year and maybe even over a period of years. To be able to really say that among our high performer pool, what percentage of this are also high pots? Because
Yeah.
that's your blue talent, right? High pots, high performers. That's the best combination we can have in terms of our top talent in an organization. So, uh, for us to be able to, track, measure, monitor, and evaluate high pots, and we're talking about numbers here. With scale comes numbers. How do we do that with so much of data? We cannot do that manually, and HR technology plays a superb role here in helping us create those tools to be able to document through what we call as critical incident method. Every time there's an observation, it goes into a log, and everything again sort of has to connect back into your performance management system, into your promotion analytics, into your reward and recognition program. So that's the identification piece where HR tech can actually help us. Through consistent demonstrated data, we are able to see a pattern, and then we say, okay, this person is also a high potential. So it cuts down time, removes the risk of manual errors, etc. The second facet is how we coach. Now, when it comes to coaching, high potentials have to be trained, coached, and nurtured slightly differently than the average employee pool, for the simple reason that they are raring to go. There are certain skill sets that they have which automatically command a premium, and also they're usually very ambitious go-getters, and we want to retain our high pots. For that, there has to be a series of bite-sized training and learning modules which are connected to the competencies. So the competency maps of the next role that they're aspiring for, that needs to be built in. And then there has to be enough applied learning environment, which means assignments, job enrichment, job rotation, career progression. Now, all of that again has to be designed using technology, because it's not easy to do it when you run an organization with thousands of employees across multiple geographies, multiple countries. It can become very complicated and can bring in a lot of manual bias, manager bias, and create issues in terms of meritocracy and fairness and transparency in the system. So again, you want to bring in a centralized HR technology platform which can actually give you data at your fingertips to be able to make those decisions. And then comes the mentoring plans. High pots need mentors. It's not enough if they just have coaches, they also need career mentors. So, how do we identify mentors? How do we map the mentor strengths, the high pots development areas, and do that mapping? That again requires scale in thinking, design thinking, systems thinking, which HR technology can support us with. And finally, the third and final facet is rewards and recognition. So high pots, we have to look at compensation strategy innovatively. If they have rare skills, if they are coming from geographies where it's not easy to attract talent or replace talent, the opportunity cost is massive. And therefore, we want to have certain premiums built into our compensation and reward structure. We want to ensure that if they're mentoring others, if they're coaching others, high pots typically one of the biggest global quality they have is they love sharing knowledge and developing others. So how do we capitalize on that? So we can't just say do it because you're good at it. We've also got to reward them for it. So building that into the compensation strategy, and then allocating learning budgets for them so that they're able to attend courses which are again linked back to the compensation to the competency maps of the level that they're aspiring for. That again needs to be built into the platform. So in all of these areas, we're talking scale, we're talking consistency, we're talking standardization, we're talking about removing biases and human errors. And that's how I see, and that's how I've seen and experienced HR technology play a beautiful role.
Thanks, Smita. Thanks for sharing those insights and practical experience of having rolled these out. Now that we have gotten a great sense of where we are headed in terms of resolving the productivity paradox. Let's now focus on change management, which happens to be the second pillar of this entire roundtable. And I'm going to come to you, Debraj, for your insights here. So talk to us, how can change management mold organizational culture to instill a forward-thinking, tech-savvy mindset?
All right, Pulkit, thanks. And I think lovely insights, Smita. Change management is how I see the actual thing is into the fitment to the context. Now we are in the advent of post-COVID scenario. 2024 is where we are. Gen X, Gen Zs are actually there ruling the workplace. How to fit the workplace according to the right context is what the change management is all about. Earlier, there were certain HR processes wherein you got to process time office and pay them salaries or do basic hiring processes in place. But now Gen Z wants everything under their foray, under their control. So you got to give them that technology advantage so that they can take a lot of options what to be suiting them in terms of be the right potential and performing candidate for the organization. So hence the HR is taking a facilitative role, a backseat role, and putting technology as a face of interaction in terms of knowing how to drive your career, how to drive your learning plans, goals, and eventually you reach up to the right spot in that entire organization. Now, it doesn't happen in a jerk. Change management always happens in a gradual way. You got to find out the pilot testing place area first. You do it successfully. You have to be persistent with the training and the support you got to give it to the change management to happen. Eventually, once that test successful, and then you can scale it up to the large scale. So the best way is giving a dose of technology first, see how it happens, what are the odd and even effects, and then try to make the even effects grow stronger so that everyone accepts the technology in terms of making it better for them to perform in the organization. For the organization, I think technology will help in terms of driving decision making through a lot of data. We are talking about a lot of data based decision making. A lot of analytics will come into the place in terms of decision making. A lot of micro analytics will come into the place. Knowing individual person's career aspiration, uh, not in terms of where he comes from, what is he planning to do in the coming 5 years, has to be captured all along, not during only recruitment times. You can't do much about those input if you don't track them well and drive some action plans around it. So organization goal would be to make a best performance excellence culture by getting the best of the talent and retaining them and making them grow with them. So I think the best change management story could be finding the right workplace culture which will fit into a technological complementing the organization goals. So that's what I believe will get.
Thanks, Devraj, for those insights. Unfortunately, we'll have to move to our next pillar. Richie couldn't be here, but he was the one who had opted this as the pillar, so we'll not be able to cover more questions on change management. Possibly we'll get Richie on to the CHRO Mindset podcast, and we'll do a deep dive session into how change management applies to HR innovation and how it's going to trend in the years to come. So I'll now shift gears. Let's now look at the third pillar, which is around how do we move from silos to solutions. So Anuj, are you able to hear us now?
Yeah. Thankfully, now
Okay.
I'm I have
Great,
resolved
great,
the
great to have you
technology
back.
problems, hopefully again. So go ahead,
Great,
go ahead.
great to have you back. So, my next question is around, how should one take a forward-thinking approach, and how can HR tech in 2024 become a transformative force in breaking down silos between different functions, and how do we get them onto one platform where there's one culture that they go by?
Well, I'll take it one by one. What
Sure.
comes to my mind is the major thing, and which I'm seeing across, and that is something of a surprise that across organization we still are competitive in approach. India, as it is, has been a very competitive society. In fact, when I look at organizations and the behaviors among the leaders, it is still a kind of a contest which is going on, which is not supposed to be. The purpose of technology, if HR and the technology which supports it can fulfill that purpose of creating a collaborative environment and for the organization, the results will be far superior and really beautiful. And when in today's world, when we talk about results, we have to keep in mind that we are not talking about only the balance sheets and the bottom line and the top line and all that. We are also talking about what is the impact of the organizational operations across departments on the people who are constituents of that organization. What is the
Okay.
benefit of creating an organization which delivers results and which creates so much stress within the system that the people who make up that organization fall victims of that? I'm not going
Hmm.
to say, I mean, people are literally having, uh, stress related problems. So many problems. We hear it, we see it in the news that people are going through people have become extremely vulnerable to absolute mental breakdowns. Now, what is the cause of that, those kind of stress related disorders of an extreme level? The result, you'll find that the operations, the technology, and this is not just about HR technology, this is technology which the ERP is having. This is so many enabling technologies have resulted in operations across the organizations to be automated, and the ability to deal with huge volumes on a daily basis has simply got enhanced superbly. Now, despite all that enablement, if you have people who are not able to cope up with that, there's something wrong in our design. So we have to look at it like that and design a culture, design a collaborative culture which we can embed in the technology. So when I'm using the word embed, I'm borrowing from your technology enthusiasts parlance. We have to embed that thing into technology. So a very simple example, I can't be given very high tech kind of examples. A very simple example is that when we are designing, when we are making people accountable for work, different tasks, why are we not, assigning it to teams and making them equally responsible? And it is not about responsible. If I am not, for some reason, right now, as I am in this webinar, if I am not able to attend to something, it will the whole essence of teamwork is that there is somebody else who will take care of that. So
Hmm.
why these are the kind of things which technology is enabling. I can't today fault technology for anything. Technology has given more than any of us could have imagined. It has given so much. The problem is in how do you use that technology to steer people and their mindsets to use that technology towards those kind of ends. And one of the ends which has a lot of importance for the organizations is the collaborative culture. We are not running a contest here. I'm running an organization. I'm not running a reality show that if you don't do this, you are out of it, so on and so forth. It is
Yeah.
an organization and it has to be treated with that kind of a respect. When we say that every human being over here is an asset, I have to actually mean it, and I have to actually, that thing I have to embed into how I am making that technology to get work out of people, to enable them, to support them, and everything about it. So this is what a platform is supposed to deliver, and this calls for a lot of thinking, planning ahead when you are designing that platform, when you are designing the work processes, anything which is supposed to be, enhancing that experience of being in control, enhancing that experience, and through enabling the people, the various stakeholders who are there within the teams, different people who are there. If it enhances, then that technology is definitely doing its job. So,
Yeah.
that's the thought. Please remind me if I missed some point or some clarification if you need when it comes to the kind
No,
of question that you had.
no, I think it definitely answers the question that I had. But one thing that if I were to reflect on, it also means that people have to go and introspect into how they can improve things for the better, right? And I think somewhere everybody has to get their ducks in the row and look at how do we instill a culture of continuous improvement. And that is my next question is actually related to that only. Uh, so what are your thoughts on how HR tech can foster that culture of continuous improvement so that folks can break free from the traditional productivity paradox cycle and look at bringing in transformations that are otherwise not possible. Maybe it's a case of non-conventional thinking, if you will.
See, I hope the question is addressed to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
So, so productivity paradox, it's good to find it in the literature, but then I was researching. So, we have not read, actually speaking, we have not reached any paradox system. We still have to discover the meaning of productivity in most of the organizations. What is the meaning of efficiencies? What is the optimum efficiency levels that we can achieve? First we have to do, because see, technology can come up to a certain level. You can bring the technology, but on the other side of technology, the recipients or the users of that technology or the platform is my human being, my employee. And
true.
yes, if I was a IT company, if I had everybody who was absolutely high up there when it comes to the IT skill sets and the way their way of thinking, how they look at problems, how they go about finding solutions for their problems, then I could have said yes, I could have faulted them. But then over here, for example, the kind of most of the brick and mortar, the old school kind of organizations that we also have an additional challenge of being patient and letting our employees, and that can be everybody, that can be even up to the level of HODs and across, to let them come up to the level where they are using technology more and more in an elegant manner. So it is one thing for me to provide a platform. So it is one thing for me to, when it comes to HR, I have provided a very sophisticated platform, but I am expecting them to mark their attendances. I'm expecting them to put in their leave applications. I'm expecting them to send their request to me over a help desk. So I have provided a platform, but unfortunately, and that's the way the human systems work, unfortunately, they are not equally comfortable in using that technology in that platform. So they will still be calling me up. They will still be sending an email when they have a platform, when they have a help desk, everything is available. Still, they'll be going to the conventional methods of approaching me and looking for also outcomes and results and deliverables through the other platforms. So, how do I fault? So, my system has been designed for efficiency and sophistication, but then the other side will take time to come up to that level. And the minimum
Yeah,
time that we have to go, it's an evolutionary kind of a thing that
yeah,
if I had younger workforce, then yes, it would have taken them lesser time to adapt to technology and develop those response systems. If I have slightly older workforce, then it will take more time, and it depends on a lot of other factors, availability of things. So point is that yes, we have to go through the full cycle to be able to reach high productivity that we are looking for. Unless you analyze in these terms, you will always be talking about a paradox that here I have injected some technology, yet I am not getting the science and the kind of productivity that I was expecting. That kind of a disconnect will always be there till we go into the root cause analysis. Why is it leading? And yes, one of the things about technology is you have to keep on refining it, you have to keep on developing it, you have to keep on making it more and more elegant and so natural. The best of technology is very natural, and that's where the whole technique lies, and that's where we want HR1 to work very closely with us and develop the system so that it gets closer and closer to my people. You are the human interface. Actually, people look at it's nice that you're having in the name of your company also the HR. So at least thankfully it has that HR. Unless so that is a plus point, and it will develop. And I'm sure with over a period of time, we'll have elegant HR interfaces, elegant HR technologies working for the employees and delivering fantastic results. Nothing beats it.
Thank you for those nuggets of wisdom. Very practical thoughts there, and of course, HR1 is always there to help you out get into the next transformation journey. Okay, I'll now come
Also,
back to you.
on second
Yeah,
thoughts,
please go ahead.
see,
Please go
there
ahead.
is a big responsibility, and this is not just about HR1, this is about any HRMS you have there
Absolutely,
out there. It's a
absolutely.
responsibility. It's a responsibility. It takes every time I make a migration, there are 1,000, 2,000 of my people who are pinning their hopes on this new app which they have downloaded, new app that which they are learning the ropes of. There is a responsibility there. I can be asking them every now and then to change their platform. So once we have
True.
migrated to a platform, the platform mandators, the platform designers have to be fluidic in their thought process. Fluidic, when
Very
I
true.
say, every organization has its own peculiar things which have to be integrated to a system. You cannot have a structured, a very rigid kind of a platform that will never
Yeah,
deliver the kind of human results that we are looking for. When you are designing for human results, when you are designing for results which come close to your people, so that they can endear, they can relate with it, they can have a sense of belonging to that platform itself,
yeah,
then we'll have to be fluidic in our approach. Now, what is meant by
yeah,
fluidic is another chapter we can keep on talking
yeah,
and
yeah,
having
yeah,
an
yeah.
offline
I
discussion on about it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Great.
I think we are going the design thinking way. Of course, that will call for another insightful conversation, which we'll
Yeah.
certainly plan to have. But again, I totally hear you, and I agree with all of what you just said. Okay, Smita, I'll come. Thank you so much. Smita, I'll come to you next, right? So let's now pivot to the broader organizational impact, and I'm talking about the transformative potential of HR tech. So if you were to take a forward-thinking approach, how do you think the integration of HR tech impacts decision-making processes that can enable organizations towards becoming more holistic and being able to take more informed choices in the years to come?
Sure, Pulkit. Thank you for that question because there is a lot of buzz around workplaces of the future. And the trends definitely that one can see globally are that roles and org structures are becoming remote, and work from wherever you can is becoming a reality across multiple sectors. Maybe not all, but some sectors have definitely embraced that. And also multi-generational, where now there is even targeted hiring efforts for post-retired personnel who come with rich wisdom, experience, and skill sets that organizations can tap into. So we're talking about a lot of diversity. We're talking about a lot of technologically connected digital natives, becoming part of the workforce in much larger numbers. And we're looking at organizations where, irrespective of location, teams can collaborate and work together. So given this kind of a beautiful canvas, technology obviously plays a very vital role in terms of how we can have holistic decision making in the management team and the leadership teams. Because oftentimes when you talk about company growth, sometimes the perception could be how many team members or how many employees do you have? How many thousands of employees work in the company? But that is not necessarily an indicator of growth, because you have to also look at the financial health of the organization. So in terms of human capital, we are basically talking about growth being equivalent to right people with the right skill set at the right time at the right cost. So when we talk about holistic decision making from an HR standpoint, I firmly believe that HR leaders must also look at numbers, look at data, and also be financial savvy, because every decision we take from a human capital standpoint has a direct and indirect cost. And whether that's a cost or an investment which yields us returns, that obviously lies in the proof of concept in terms of the kind of innovation and the kind of projects that we run to optimize production, productivity, efficiencies, performance, etc. So HR technology that can not just help us capture data, because in the previous question when I was answering about HiPods, I was talking about capturing data. But for decision making, it's not enough just to have data being captured. You also have to interpret the data. And for that, having intelligent HR technologies that can help interpret the data for you and make the decision process easy, wherein you can build in checks and balances, and your logic in terms of how you want the data to be analyzed by the system, that really accelerates the process of holistic decision making. Because now, let's say for example you want to do staffing decisions to support business growth for the next financial year, you will be able to look at data and interpretation of the data with regards to what's the demographics of your internal talent pool looking like right now, how many open positions need to be filled, what's the average time to hire, what's the conversion ratios looking like, what's the success profile of the people that you want to replicate by hiring from the same channel, so that you're able to sort of duplicate the high performance that you want to bring in. You also would look at seat utilization, bench ratios, etc., to make staffing decisions, and also in terms of business forecasts and your growth pipeline, how you want human capital to actually become an enabler of that growth. And then you would also look at your current turnover, your attrition rates, etc., because they definitely dent your margins, and you want to look at your compensation strategy and approach as well, so that you're able to bring people with the right skill sets um, into the organization at the right
Yeah.
cost, as I said. So for us to do all of this, and also very importantly, when we talk of business growth, when we talk about organizations of the future, we're looking at a lot of agility. So succession planning cannot be an annual exercise where we spend months trying to figure out, who are the people who can be incumbents for critical roles that need to be filled. Succession planning also will need to be agile as new positions open up, and you want to give internal career paths to your high pods and high performance inside. So all of this requires HR technology to be integrated. In fact, I would almost say that if there are three biases that I have seen operating while we try and make decisions in business, the first is too much data, which gets overwhelming, or it's too less data, which is not enough for us to be able to base our decisions on, or wrong, incorrect, or biased interpretation of data. So technology, the way I see it, is going to become more agile, more intelligent, more intuitive, and start helping us with all of these three aspects, so that we have the right data with the right interpretation, so that we are able to take holistic business decisions at the right time.
Thanks a ton, Smita. Again, very insightful. And this brings us to the end of this third pillar, which was around using technology to break silos. Let's now pivot to the last pillar that we had, and we are now going to touch base on talent acquisition to talent access. And my next question is for you, Debraj. So again, taking a forward-looking stance, how do you foresee HR tech redefining traditional talent acquisition models to make them more accessible and inclusive, and possibly reshaping the landscape by 2024?
All right, so talent acquisition at times was looking at filling up the positions, but now I think we'd like to redefine the fitment is the right word to look at the talent acquisition, because we are like matchmakers, we are like trying to fit the best skill set to the job description, which has been defined properly, if it has been defined properly. So I think the HR has a role to see beyond what is obvious, and then you got to see if there's an organization tomorrow, some goals are set, what are the skill set you need to bring along, not for today but also for the future. And that's where the journey starts. And then you keep thinking how to groom those talents. So this is one facet to capture all the data and finding the right fitment, which has been the story, I think, all along now. I think I can tell you now a different article which I've gone through, and I think this is a successful model. And in times to come, I think a lot of us will might follow this. We've seen a platform wherein the exit employees were the bad attrition for the organization, otherwise good performers. They have joined in a platform which is a collaborative platform, and there again the few departments are also part of that group. They keep posting what are the happenings of the organization, so that you are always in touch with those people who are good to the business, who are good to the organization, and they might like to come back and join us. So that's been a very innovative model what I've seen in recent practice. And then you would also like to have the potential candidates being part of that group, wherein you have earmarked them for future roles, and how to let them know how the organization is growing, how things are happening for good, and why not you join these organizations. So you get a glimpse of organization as the best fitment, both from talent perspective, both from attraction perspective, and that helps in terms of, because the marriage is happening well in advance. All you got to see is more like in recruitment doing the formalities. You find the right talent, you have earmarked them, you got them pumped up to join this organization, and we find a best picture out of this coming. So this is a very innovative model which I've seen in recent case. I think years to come, we might like to approach this. But for now, I think we got to do a very right close fitment to make the best of the hiring, to make the organization effective. Because followed by hiring, it could be a performance issue, it could be a retention issue, it could be the entire employee life cycle management which might come into impact. So I think hiring is very crucial. We all of us know that. So I think that's my way of saying how to make the potential candidate inclusive in the model and making it a little beyond, because there is a technology to support us now. So that's my take. Yeah.
Thanks, Devraj. And now, as we delve into the forward-looking transformation of talent acquisition through HR tech, it's clear that the landscape is evolving rapidly. And now
I'd just like to add, if you allow,
please,
just a
please.
minute. A major trend which is going to happen, and the technology has already enabled that, is the gig work. Now, when we talk about gig work, what comes to our mind is those Zomato workers, or those so many people who get us the deliveries, and so gig people are doing gigs. Nothing new about it. But a major change is when you're talking about organizations such as where we work, which where we get paid on a daily basis for our presence. Now, imagine the major frontier, the major, what should I say, challenge is creation of work units. And if that thing gets resolved, so again, it's not about just the technology availability, it is about change of mindsets from the part of the employer, the person who has work, and the people who are looking for work. So if you're looking for work, I have work available for you, but I am not ready to employ you. I can't afford to employ you. So the major change which I think talent acquisition will have to make use of more and more, as on a daily basis I struggle with finding the right people for the right job, so as to say. It also occurs to me that yes, there are certain positions, certain work which can very well be offloaded to professionals out there. May not be fully, but in fractional. So we have those trends which are already available in the market, nothing unique about it. But at the same time, those are things which are, I think, will become very, very widespread over a period of time. So I'm talking about fractional CFOs, fractional CHROs, so on and so forth. So people where, in other words, freelancers will be, easily working with organizations. Even now they work, but I think it will start happening in a very click, click, click kind of a manner. So we have platforms like Fiverr, platforms like Freelancer, but that will start happening more. So that will reduce the need for me to be looking for people for full-time employments. So that's the connect with the talent acquisition. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that great example. I think very well connects with the guidance given by Debraj. Uh, I would now want to go back to Ritika, and I think let's shift our focus internally now, and let's look at the practical applications of using HR tech to transform talent acquisition. So with that as a background, Ritika, talking about identification and nurturing of internal talent, walk us through some examples of how HR tech tools have played an instrumental role in aligning individual employee skills and aspirations with strategic roles, and how that has fostered a culture of continuous growth and development in your experience.
Thanks, Pulkit. Uh, Pardon me, my net is a bit shaky, so I've just switched off the camera for a while so that
That's
I'm
perfectly fine.
audible.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. To that, what you've asked me on, how do we look, HR tool plays a very crucial role in identifying and nurturing internal talent. And I'll just take you to the ground zero. I mean, how do you actually could do it? Well, certainly, Smita did cover about, the three facets and, the process and the modalities on, how do you get to identify, nurture, and to bring it to life, just sharing a few examples. I mean, of course, you've
Yeah.
got skill assessment platforms, right? I mean, you can internally build platforms where, any employee or any team member could, evaluate their own skills against a set of parameters depending on their jobs, receive feedback from peers. The whole concept of, let's say 360-degree round the year, like she also did mention, and I really like the point. I mean, why do you have to really wait for succession planning to be a mid-year or twice in a year activity? I mean, it should be ongoing, very agile, and you can capture a lot of anecdotes, good performance through the year, and make better judgments and better decision making basically. So to that, I mean, you can of course use HR technology for having great skill assessment platforms, have fantastic learning management systems built in, which you can, of course, navigate with so many partners across the world. I mean, for different skill sets, and it has become very easy. I mean, um, there's so many. I'm sure you'll all agree. There's so many online programs these days. I mean, sometimes it really gets tough to figure out the objectivity and the relevance and the importance of all of those. But to bring back to the point, there is a lot of theory, a lot of practical understanding that you can just do or learn right from a click of a button. It makes life, I think it's made our lives a little bit easier. More examples, I mean, you have internal mobility platforms where employees or team members can figure out great opportunities. They can, the concept of IGPs, all of that
Yeah.
has come to more action in life now versus, let's say 10 years back. I mean, I worked in organizations which are cross geographies. I mean, it's so much easier to figure out, what interests me, and those kind of lateral moves and the information that is now readily available because of technology versus going through different HR fraternities is much easier. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really need to wait for a business partner to help me, look at opportunities which just I can see on a particular window. So it definitely has eased out a lot of experience, I feel, for an employee from their standpoint. Moving on, I mean, having feedback and recognition systems on place, continuous feedback, live chats. I mean, all of this in a daily routine job for an employee is definitely uh, does impact their efficiency, productivity, and I choose to believe in a good way. So, leveraging these HR tech tools, I feel organizations can create a very dynamic, very personalized approach to talent identification for their development, or giving an opportunities right on their systems to, you know, uh, navigate to different opportunities and job roles across the organization depending on their interests, making, overall making a bringing or fostering a culture of, continuous growth and learning. And of course, I think somewhere the employee also feels with so many so much of information and so much on their side, it definitely builds that positivity around a business also in these times. I mean, you've got
Yeah,
everything, all information in one place. I mean, that I think is a fundamental and a fantastic thing that tech has enabled for organizations.
great thoughts there, Ritika. Thank you. Uh, This brings us to the end of our four pillars. I would encourage all the listeners out there to post any questions that they may have. We are now going into the wrap up mode, and I'm going to go to each one of the panelists and would love to hear their final thoughts. I think all of them have brought valuable insights to the table. And in nutshell, I would want to understand, what's the key takeaway or parting perspective, if you will, from our discussion today, from their vantage point. So maybe we can start off with Anuj, with you for your closing remarks.
Well, my thing is that yes, the technology, the availability of the technology has raised the bar, and it has raised the bar for all. And when I say all, I mean for the, of course, the HR team first and foremost, because HR teams have to be very tech savvy and they have to think in a systematic, a methodical, and a technology savvy kind of a manner. So it is
True.
not just enough now, and we are talking about generation Z and all that more and more. So it is a must that that generation, the new generation, has to live up to that expectation that they will be tech savvy. I come from a different generation. Still, I have kept up to speed, and it helps me a lot. And but the last thing that I would expect is that from a person who has just graduated, or maybe who has some 3 or 4 years experience and is not up to speed in technology, and that is very disappointing. So it has raised the bar for all of us, and first and foremost HR teams and also the employees. And we have to live up to those expectations through constantly refining, constantly and continuously improvising the systems, not losing sight of the matter that what is the employee looking for, not losing sight of the matter that we have to empathize with the employee, that if he's looking for some kind of a outcome, that we have to deliver that outcome in a most easy manner. So those are the kind of things which are very important today. And since availability of technology is there, it is a challenge that we can't, we have to deliver that with best quality. So the response quality is important, the efficiency is important, the elegance is important, and all of these are of course challenges, but I would say these are creative challenges. These are some things which I wake up to throughout it's very creative kind of a challenge. It's a fantastic feeling that yes, there are certain long standing problems and you can break it down into a logical solution. And then of course then there are vendors, you come up to them for expectations and they start delivering. So this is how it goes. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, sir. Ritika, your final thoughts, please.
Thanks, Pulkit. Well, I think fundamentally, HR tech, I think one, it's a huge gamut of options. What ultimately is important is it's actually dependent on what the organization needs. One, how relevant is it for a particular organization and their ecosystem and employees. What comes next to my mind is, for a very successful HR enabled, tech enabled HR function and its operations and the delivery that they do, how what's the management's point of view? I mean, how, what's their buy-in on it? Because everything definitely takes time. I mean, it's not that,
Yeah.
you get on board and the adoption takes, I mean, I'm talking real life problems, and I'm sure many of us have faced it, come through it. I mean, I feel that, of course, picking up a tool, doing it, launching it is great, but you got to have your people and management on board. There's an adoption to it. There are problem solving to it. There's teething issues, on and on. But what's extremely important is how does it get embedded into your culture? How important do you think is it for you to do it at this point in time versus 2 years later? What's your readiness level for it? All of these important parameters, I think these are extremely important to be considered while opting for XYZ tools. I mean, there are great tools out in the market, and of course, HROne being one of them. There are multiple features. Which one do you want to adopt right now? So, the end of the day, the job of identifying and having solutions and answers to all of this lies with the HR. So, strategically, speaking, I mean, it's extremely important to have the right direction, right thoughtfulness on what do you want to achieve from these tools. Have a very clear, what's your agenda? I mean, what's that you want to drive? You got to have all those answers very clearly, and I think once you have it, of course, these features, these tech-enabled tools are, of course, a boon to a lot of extent, is what I feel. But yeah, there's
Great.
the few questions that we got to answer to ourselves before jumping on to one new name in the market and doing this and doing everything. It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
Great. Thanks, Ritika.
thanks.
Debraj, your final thoughts, please.
I think I'll sound repetitive when Anuj spoke about HRMS responsibly be available to fit the context. Ritika spoke about right timing. I think it's very crucial to the organization when you want to launch this. And the people who will use this, the HR team, the employees at large are ready to accept it or not. Everything boils down to one bottom line. I think how is it going to impact the organization, the role, the ones which you have signed up for? That is the ultimate goal we need to look forward to. These are all tools to eventually reach there. Having said that, that's how the role of an HR is as a change agent to be a torch bearer and see where we are and where we need to be. And that's how they take help of technology, automation to bridge the gaps. We need to understand how post-COVID the scenario got changed, how the new generation are looking at things, how they want to be in command and control to drive things. Lot of it already known to them, and how management believes in productivity like never before. So I think all of that put together, the automation and technology should be a very, very productive tool for the business to move to the next future. This is what I believe. Yeah.
Thanks, Devraj. Smita, your final thoughts, closing comments.
I completely agree and second everything that Anuj, Ritika, and Debraj shared. All I would like to add on is once you've identified and once you know why you're bringing on an HR system on board, after that, onboarding is a beautiful experience. Yes, it's fraught with challenges. There are lots of barriers and there would be resistance and pushbacks, but enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride because you're bringing in something beautiful as long as you are very clear about the benefits that will accrue to the users. Just look at simplicity. I would just say have a very high degree of empathy with your employees. Put yourself in their positions. They've already got a full-time job. And as HR, when we are rolling out a new system, there will be teething problems. Try and see what we in HR can do to minimize the inconvenience that can cause. The last thing somebody wants is their files not opening, the systems becoming slow. That can be a very frustrating experience. So, look at ways of involving them in the decision making process, in the adoption cycle. Do it in bite size. Don't when we roll out something full blown org wide, it's a lot for employees to go through. So make it completely user centric. Your customer, your internal customer is your employee. Put yourself in their shoes. Make it simple for them. How you do it, there are structures to it. How you educate and create awareness, how you help them with hand holding, have coaches on standby to support them, and most importantly, ask them what's the right timeline within which and how you want to do it. I've seen organizations trying to implement HR systems during peak reporting periods, during peak production cycles, and that has really thrown people off guard because they're like, my entire work schedule is gone. out of the window. So little things like these, that empathy is very important. At the end of the day, it's we doing it together. Our employees included, we are bringing on HR technology together. So that is what my personal experience has been in terms of how to enjoy the ride after we bring an HR system on board is by involving the employee champions as we call them, across the board, across departments, across functions, and making them part of the decision as to how we implement the HR system.
Great. Thanks, Smita, for those closing comments. We'll now get into the Q&A session. We've got some very interesting questions in the chat box. I'm going to take them. We'll see if times and schedules permitting, we'll not be able to take all questions, but I'll try and see how many we can take on. So the very first question is, how do you deal with a situation where you introduce new platforms, but employees don't operate in sincerely, and it almost feels like we have to school them and make them do it out of force? Uh, Open to all panelists who would want to take this up.
All right, so let me take that. I think I have gone through the same cycle and same experience, and I've been still going through that. I think the right timing is where I think we missed it, when we need to understand whether your employees at large is ready or not, what sort of support, handholding, for how long is required. At times, our planning might not fit in. How to expand the planning to make it more effective. Having said that, you'll still find a lot of people maybe still will struggle a lot, and maybe in course of culture grooming they'll embark on the journey. You have to be positive about it. You should come from a standpoint that you should be always be supportive, because this is a transition. This is not easy, not neither for all of us when you have gone through a lot of transition during COVID times. So you got to be empathetic, as Smita was telling that part. So it's very important. You got to have the training always as a support, training and supporting them, and then eventually in a subconscious way let them rule the roost. How to make it self-driven by them. That should be your way. You should not feel trap of that problem, that now I started doing it on their behalf. So it's a very subtle way of balancing it out, helping the people to be driving it through their own. And I think eventually you'll reach there, if not fully 100%, but you'll reach to the level how you have planned it well. So I think that will serve the purpose.
Thanks, Debraj. Next question is, how impactful are employee engagement survey-based AI tools to check employee pulse, as employees are still not open to sharing feedback openly, and the completion percentage rate remains below 30% mostly? That's the other side of AI. I've always looked at the brighter side of the house, but I think this question comes with a pinch of salt there. But would love to know what are your thoughts?
Sure. May
Uh,
I?
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm sorry if I'm Smita. You are taking it.
Sure,
Go
I'm
ahead.
fine to go after you, Anuj.
I don't
No,
mind both of you contributing.
I have very different thoughts. There's so much emphasis on AI, etc.
Please.
And trust me, I believe in all that. But then the fact is that before going into large scale surveys and applying your AI, it is far more easier to listen to the employees who are in front of you. I mean, that is what HR is supposed to be doing. Like, once again, I'm saying that so much talk about technology, so little about what goes into making a good HR. And HR is simple by design. It is very simple, but you have to have a physician's mindset about it. You have to listen to the people, you have to listen to the organization, and a survey is required if you like, and that too application of AI into it is required if you want to really go deep down. If you have huge organizations which are spanning geographies, which are going across this, and you are coming up with something, you're looking for answers there. Maybe you are an analytic guy who has to add to some decision making or contribute to decision making, that maybe. But when you're talking about application of of these surveys for, you know, keeping your ears to the ground. I would say that far more easier and a doable thing is to do the fundamentals first. If we are there is enough technology available with or without AI right now, so that we can be, you know, listening to the employees, we can be tuned into the employees what they are looking for. We all are also employees. Why can't we empathize with that? There's so many things which come to my mind. And another thing before I since I'll somebody mentioned, I'm sorry, that was Ritika who mentioned perhaps ecosystem. A word is very important, is ecosystem. Where is our ecosystem like when it comes to the overall technology landscape? So our organizations are small parts of the whole society and the entire ecosystem. And if we are designing something that has to fit into that ecosystem, so now when we are processing a payroll, I still have to send an Excel sheet to somebody out there, because I can't be, my banks here are not designed for that. Banks have not enabled themselves to take that. Now just imagine if, and this I'm saying of how many years back, I'm talking of 97, where, and I wonder if that bank is still there or not, the Royal Bank of Scotland in Canada. They would be selling their software to organizations, and the whole idea was that we'll do the payroll and make the payments on behalf of you, and we'll keep everything together. The entire accounts of the employee payments we'll get together. And I am talking of 1997. That was the level of integration which was there, and that's what is the next step I see, and I would recommend, I would wish for India to be getting into that level of finish. The last mile connectivity is what we talk about. As long as that is not there, I'll not be able to deliver fully to my employee, right? So I'll thank you very much for your time.
Smita, you want to add on,
Yes, please.
please?
Thank you. In my experience working with employee surveys, again, I would go back to employee centricity. There are two reasons why employees do not fill up surveys or where the response rate becomes very low. AI or non-AI, I've seen that it happens when either there is a trust deficit for some reason, or when there is lack of understanding as far as whether my responses would be confidential or not, which can also be tied to the frequency of surveys. Now, for example, organizations which run too many surveys, onboarding survey, learning survey, ye survey, wo survey, employees, itna survey, there's so much of survey fatigue that sets in. Employees at some point of time stop taking these surveys because it's just too much.
Okay.
Everything, all the time things are popping up and asking them questions, right? So that can set a survey fatigue. So one is to check the frequency. The second very important part is the trust deficit. Do I as an employee understand how my information is going to be used? To what extent can I be candid and honest? Will this information get leaked? It's not going to a human being. There is some, bot related, AI related work that's going to happen. I just want to know how it works. So was there a context setting? Was there some kind of a discussion, a launch that happened where all of these aspects were dealt with? If that was done, great. But in spite of that, there could still be a trust deficit if in the past surveys which were earlier filled up, there was no action taken. So when they have not seen corrective or constructive action taken based on feedback gathered in previous surveys, the trust goes down because they are
Yeah.
like, why should I give more information? I gave a lot of information, nothing happened. So there is a trust deficit. So we have to convert data gathered into interpretation and then into action. Those actions must be communicated to the employees, and there has to be proof that those actions have been converted into reality. And then when we do the survey, more people will actually participate. That has been my experience.
Thanks, Smita, and thanks, Anuj sir, for sharing those insights. Uh, we have a little bit of time more hoping. I'll try and cover a few more questions as much as possible. Of course, we have got like 9, 10 questions out here. We'll not be able to unfortunately cover all of them. So the next question is, we spoke about getting the management onboarded before implementing any HR technology. But what I've seen is that after onboarding any technology, HR teams would be running from pillar to pillar to make other functions, and especially the employees use this technology. So how do we make sure that we have everybody onboarded well in advance? Nobody needs to force us to use Instagram or Twitter. It comes naturally. How can we make this technology adaptability or tech adoption a natural action? And the second part of the question is how do we calculate the ROI before implementing these technologies?
I can share a recommendation on the adoption piece. Again, going back to employee champions, we are working with different departments, finance, technology, resource mobilization, operations. So many different departments are involved. So to actually, and every department, every employee group will have influencers. They are the ones who are vocal and they are respected and looked up to in those employee circles. Make them your allies. When you are rolling out an HR system and you're trying to bring about a new platform or system, make them your allies. They can be the champions of change. Because when they talk and present the system along with you, or when they are out there on the floor talking about it, talking about the value, about the benefits, how it will make our job and life easier, faster, more efficient, people will listen to them. Because they have already built that reputation. There is a great credibility capital that is there that we can actually leverage. So people adopt something, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, we do that because we see value in it. It's very clear. So when I see the value that will accrue to me, then I'm highly motivated and incentivized to adapt that. But when I just receive an email or there's a town hall and I'm told that there is going to be a system we're going to roll out and this is the implementation timeline, I as an employee may not really understand it. So make use of smaller focus groups, use these employee brand ambassadors, make them your allies, let them be co-presenters with you, which means they need to go through the pilot first. When you do the beta testing, have those allies go through it. So they directly see how life will become easier and better. The benefits that we as HR have in mind, they need to experience it, they will become our spokesperson. This will create a multiplier effect and you will be able as an HR to roll out the system much more efficiently with people and employees wanting to embrace it because their friends are talking about it as well. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Smita. One last question before we wrap it up. I know the list is never going to end, right? And this question is about how would you propose to implement the HR technology that we are excited about? A lot of tools are available, be it AI, analytics. Which of the buckets should be implemented in phased manner, as there is a lot of training involved as well for greater acceptance? Anybody wants to take that?
Could you repeat that question again? I'm not able to
Yeah,
follow.
so it's about how should one propose to implement the HR technology that we are excited about. There are a lot of tools available and AI, adding more analytics, which of the buckets should be implemented in a phased manner, as there is a lot of training involved as well for greater acceptance. I think it's not articulated well, but I think it's all about, how should one propose the HR technology. I think what are the A to Z of what they need to look at before taking it up with the higher management. I think that's what this question is all about.
I think it will go back to needs analysis, and I would request my esteemed speakers to actually share their thoughts as well. But for me, it's always been about needs analysis. It doesn't matter what my, within the sector or industry, what other organizations are doing. It's about what my organization needs. What are the issues that require automation? Where is it that process inefficiencies are creeping in? Where are my costs going up? Where is repetition of work? Where is routine task getting, again and again, sort of slowing us down? So I would look at all of these areas, and of course, I will have to have detailed discussions. I have to be part. HR must always have a seat, at the discussion table. As we always say that we have to be true business partner, which means we need to know what are the day-to-day problems our operations teams are facing, and basis that we come back with a proposal. And then, our due diligence or our analysis should capture all of those needs to see which system will address it best, and we take it from there. Whether we need AI, we don't need AI, we need to build in data science modules, whatever else may be required. But it'll all go back to needs analysis, clarity of needs analysis. And HR should never take something because somebody else says you've got to do it, so HR does it. We should not be order takers. We should actually be strategic advisors and enablers.
Well said, Smita. Well said.
Thank you, Anuj.
Great. I think it brings up us to the end of this fantastic discussion. As we wrap up our discussion today, I think one thing clearly stood out that HR Tech is here to reshape how we work, whether it's about breaking, down silos, or it's about transforming how we get the right and the best talent out there, or nurturing internal talent. The potential is vast. And I think as HR leaders, we all have to be open to these possibilities. Big thanks to our panelists for sharing their insights and to everyone for joining this enriching conversation. Before we sign off, for all of those who have logged in today from Hyderabad or nearby locations, we invite you to join us at HR1 Propel in Hyderabad on 19th Jan at Hayat Gachibowli. Propel is our flagship event that promises a lot of networking opportunities and knowledgeable insights. We wrapped up two of the chapters in Mumbai and Gurgaon in last couple of months, and we look forward to hosting you there. The registration link will be provided in the comment section. Thanks again, everyone, and of course, our panelists for taking out time and patiently answering all these questions with such practical insights. Thank you, Anuj sir. Thanks, Smita. Thanks, Debraj. I think Ritika had to leave, but while she's not there, thanks to her as well.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Pulkit.
much
Very
for
well
inviting us. Thank you.
coordinated. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Pulkit.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.